Hello, everyone. This is Dan the Democrat, and today we'll be talking a little bit about District 4. A good friend of mine, Mitchell Jacob, just announced for Congress in this district located in south/southwest Oklahoma, Congressional District 4. And we're going to be talking about, just some of the Democratic areas and some of the redder regions and what I think could be a path forward for Mr. Jacob on his path to Congress. So let's get into it. Here we have District 4 in all its glory. We can see here that it is located in the south central southwest very far southern parts of the state. The principal areas of density, we'll put that on real quick here, are of course here in the Oklahoma City, down into the Norman metro areas, Cleveland County, a portion of Oklahoma County. Then we have Lawton here in Comanche County, but there are also a number of smaller areas. Of course, we have Ada, Chickasha, Duncan, Ardmore, even Paws Valley and Sulphur, both those areas. And then, then further down we have Marlow or Lindsay, even Purcell, the Quad Cities up here, Frederick out here in far western portion of the district. Overall, if we look at the demographics here real quick, and we'll turn back on the full view, it's very white. There's one precinct that is actually mostly native, I believe, right here, or has a large native population rather, or excuse me, a large other population. That's interesting. So, District uh, 4 is generally thought, in my opinion, is the bellwether district. As this district goes, so does the state, or at least very closely, as we can see here, R plus 33 in 2024, whereas the state was R plus 35, so very close there. R plus 10-ish and 10.3-ish in 2022 for governor, whereas R plus 14, so a little bit bluer there, so on and so forth, right? And this state, this congressional district really does model the state, and that's for a number of different reasons. It's got a, kind of the same racial metrics, kind of the same density metrics, and that you have a lot of urban population with some suburban. But let's get into it. So let's start with the Democratic areas, and we'll get into some of the Republican urbanish areas, and then into the rurals real quick. So here we have Midwest City, Tinker Air Force Base. This is a toss-up E portion of the district. We also have Del City here, voting slightly for Trump, but not by a huge amount. Then we have Cleveland County here, which can be divided up into the very solidly red Moore area. If we look at the city here real quick, we can see scrolling upwards, Moore is pretty solidly Republican by about 26 points, though has gotten bluer by about 3 points. We have Norman, which is a big blue area, though not as blue as some people conceive it. So certainly we have that downtown blue portion there in central Norman, but we also have these redder parts out here in eastern and western Norman. Then as we get out, we go into Lawton. Lawton is a Republican-leaning city, not a super Republican city, but certainly is some area with a consistent Republican lean. R plus 7 in 2024, R plus 6 in 2020, with the gubernatorial candidates winning it, Democrat gubernatorial candidates winning it in the midterm years. Then we get into the mid-range cities here. We see Duncan, very Republican. Chickasha, very Republican. Ardmore, very Republican. Ada, very Republican, and that's kind of the story there. So you have these, Democratic Metro here in Norman. Midwest cities kind of toss-up-y. Del City kind of toss-up-y, but really, aside from those three areas, the rest of the areas really lean GOP. If you look at the county level, same story here, all red counties for this congressional district. But what does this look like under, a potential leaning environment? If we look at the 2022 gubernatorial race, which I think we might see a close repeat of again, we see some different dynamics here at play in the congressional district. Certainly, If you look at the Oklahoma County portion, Midwest City is handedly blue. Same with Dell City. Moore starting is within 5 points for the Democrat here. Southern Oklahoma City certainly not bluer. Norman is just tremendously blue, almost D plus 30 here. And then you get into Lawton, which is slightly blue, slightly light blue. But then you look at some of the other cities. Duncan still pretty red. Chickasha a little closer, only R plus 17. Ardmore R plus 15 here. But you go over to Ada. Ada's actually, give it a second to load here, Democratic leaning. So very interesting dynamic there. And of course, that extends the rest of Pontotoc County. So look there, almost toss up the region there. Here are the issues, right? Certainly even under this environment, this district still goes red. And that is really due to areas like the Quad Cities. We can see up here, if we put on a density fill again, this area's got some mid-level density up here with the communities of Tuttle and Blanchard. You have Bridge Creek, which isn't too large, but you have Newcastle, which is greatly growing in population. If we want to look at the turnout shift real quick here between 2020 and 2024, real quick, turnout shift, we'll turn that on. 2020, 2024, see a huge turnout increase in this area, and that isn't just people getting more civically engaged. These areas are also really growing in population. You see 25% here in this Tuttle precinct, 12%, 30% here, 14%, 14 to 23%, large growth there. Whereas you look at the other parts of the district, you see massive turnout drops in Lawton, kind of this more western portion of the district, while you see some big turnout increases here in eastern Cleveland County, another area that's growing in population. And that really is the thing here. If we look at turnout overall, you see that Lawton, especially in the more democratic leaning portions of Lawton, we'll flip back here, southern Lawton, these areas, has pretty low turnout. Overall, I think the city overall is about 34%, so that's not very good. Of course, it's a little skewed from Fort Sill there, but even then, you look at downtown Norman, you see a lot of lower turnout here. The city's turnout is around 50%, pretty close to the district overall, but lower turnout in those precincts, especially around the university, though that's to be expected. And then Midwest City, you have lower turnout in these northern precincts, which are the bluer precincts. And in a nutshell, that some of the bigger problems you see here is that a lot of the bluer areas have lower overall turnout. They're less engaged and kind of defeated by the red lean of their neighbors. Whereas the more Republican areas have higher turnout, and certainly in some of these smaller precincts, you're approaching 100% because it's a lot easier. But the more Republican parts of Norman, West Norman, you see higher turnout. Up here in the 60s and 70s and even 80, right there. Same Eastern Norman, and then a lot of these northern McLean County portions, you're seeing higher turnout among the GOP almost exclusively there. But even then, this district has, been kind of close in the last few years. At the top of the ticket, 2018, D plus or R plus 9, 2020, R plus 10.5. It certainly has got some potential to be competitive, and I think a real organized campaign going to all parts of the district will be really important here. Mitchell Jacob has previously run for House District 20, which is in this southern Cleveland / northern McLean County area, very red portion of the district, and certainly, him campaigning in those areas will make him well suited to go campaign in Stevens County, which is another really red portion of this district. So we can see here, turn on the county model real quick here. Almost R plus 64 there, so very red portion in the presidential election, and similarly here in Grady County. But ultimately, I think it's really a task of connecting cities. And really, if we look at each of these cities, certainly Lawton, Norman, Midwest City, Moore, even Chickasha has a blue precinct here in the gubernatorial thing and some pink precincts there. Paul's Valley, sort of a precinct down here. Ada, of course, got some blue precincts there. Ardmore has a very blue precinct over here, especially in the gubernatorial contest, getting over 90% of the vote in that area. Some precincts over there. And you really got to play connect the dots, right? Even in Duncan, there are some pinker precincts. In the gubernatorial contest, you got one that's in single digits. And by using those as staging operations, I think there's a really clear path forward in organizing these communities and helping get the Democratic base energized. And here in Norman, using this as a staging operation to launch organization operations into this Quad Cities area, working with the McLean County Democrats, I think would be very effective. And even organizing Midwest City, certainly trying to do work to get the turnout not to drop as much as we see in midterm elections here. If we see presidential level turnout and keep the partisan lean of these precincts, that'll be great for really pushing the district to the left. So overall, what we've learned here is that this is a really bellwether district. It's, as a bellwether district, it certainly leans to the right a lot in presidential elections, though in gubernatorial contests in the last few midterms, it's shown to be quite, on the edge of competitiveness. Mitchell Jacob has an impressive background as a veteran. This is a really high military district with Fort Sill and with Tinker Air Force Base, and he has been campaigning in one of the redder parts of the district for quite some time now. You're really getting those bona fides in rural red and slash exurban red organizing, especially here in the Quad Cities areas, that has proved to be troublesome for this district. I believe that he's going to run a great race. He's already announced really early, so that's great to hear. And we'll see how this contest develops in the future. But this has been Dan the Democrat. I think we're going to cover some more stuff in the redistricting wars that are happening. But thank you for tuning in today. We'll have more videos coming your way very soon. Have a great day, folks. Goodbye.